and gentlemen, ro-shaun here for Forever Football DRFC, your Doncaster Rovers fan channel, and welcome to a daily report. It's been a long time since we've done a daily report. Now, before we get started, before we talk about exactly what we're here to talk about, please like, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell so you never miss a YouTube video. We're going to get straight into this. So today, we've got some injury updates going into Saturday. The preview will be up on Friday, don't you worry about that. But yeah, basically, we've got injury updates going into Saturday. We also have this that I'm about to speak about right now. Now, there's a guy on Twitter called James. I won't mention his full name or his Twitter handle because, you know, just for privacy reasons. But he's just called James. Shout out him because he's put a balanced, spot-on thread here about Doncaster Rovers and how we're run and how we're doing. So I'm going to read the whole thing out. Shout out and credit to James for all of this. And I'm going to basically just speak about this and my thoughts on it. And also I'm going to speak about the Wellens In, Wellens Out debate. So, stream of consciousness I need to get off my chest about Doncaster Rovers at the moment. Thread. So, number one. I don't really have a board-in-out stance. I think they're well-intentioned and there are things they do very well. But there are things that are doing or not doing that are holding us back. Number two, I think Club Doncaster is being seen as an evil, but it's really just a commercial strategy to attract sponsorship/revenue from other off-field areas. In many respects, it's working very well, and it's one area the CEO/board and staff appear to be making a decent job of. The troublesome part of Club Doncaster, this number three, is the way it's sometimes being confused or used interchangeably with the identity of a 140-year-old football club. When you have managers, like Darren Moore did, using it in media interviews, it's jarring for many Rovers fans, I think, and a PR own goal. That's a very interesting point. 4. I also think the budget, in quotation marks, budget, is often used as the core issue, but I would say the problem is less about the budget, more about the club structure and the way the budget is being deployed. That's an interesting statement, definitely. Number 5. What I conclude from what I see in the public domain is that as long as the CEO feels a competitive budget is being delivered, that's most of the battle won. Number 6, in reality, I think football has changed far too much even at League 1/League 2 level to just set a budget and then lead the manager and one or two of the staff to it to identify and sign the players. There has to be a structure and a football identity embedded into the club that transcends managers. Having the manager dictating the structure/identity and get the players he likes seems to be the cart pushing the horse in 2021. The manager should have input, of course, but for the whole setup to be ripped up and start again when the new manager is appointed doesn't seem optimal or joined up, to say the least, and that's, in a nutshell, how things appear to be run at the minute. That's why you get DM going off and signing a bunch of young lads on loan to fulfil his fantasy of developing youth players for their/his good with the club an afterthought, and any permanent signings being largely people he knows personally yet don't really fit the club. That's definitely a spot-on point. Then you have Richie Wellens come in and identify players that look to be the right profile, that don't seem to be able to execute the way he wants to play. None of it seems very well thought, though, and there doesn't seem to be a structure to fall back on. Whether Richie Wellens is the right man or not, I don't know. I had high hopes, but I'm struggling to see any real style/identity basics being done well, or much real progress being made. Equally, do I think getting rid will solve our problems? Probably not. I think our problems we have are because of the way things are set up. Commercially at the minute it seems to work well, but on the football side there's no real plan beyond any appoint a manager, set a budget and have a guy in a vague recruitment role with a spreadsheet. Toss of a coin stuff. I remember one of the current board, perhaps David Blunt or Terry Bramwell, saying in around 2016-17 that being in League 2 was unacceptable for Doncaster Rovers Football Club, but we now appear to be heading there for a second time on their watch. I'm also concerned about the lack of support or culture/harmony/togetherness around the club. Crowds are dwindling, away support is a shadow of what it was, atmosphere is stale. I can't disagree with that. We don't really have a fan culture/identity that I strongly identify with. Seems to have been lost gradually since the BV days. We're a decent sized town, but there's little excitement, momentum and connection being whipped up with townsfolk. Stadium location is probably part of that, but I feel more that can be done to proactively to generate the culture and sense of pride around supporting your hometown club. Some things are being done well, but again, massive room for improvement. The above starts with the club itself, I feel. Gavin Baldwin said in pre-season we had our identity back, or something similar, but we find ourselves playing unrecognisable football in a kit that nobody would look at as being identifiably Doncaster Rovers. So where is this identity? As good as it may be commercially, it seems clear that fans don't identify with Club Doncaster, and identity should mean more than recruiting some ex-players. Not sure there's a silver bullet for all this, but most of the areas in the club need to be reviewed and reinvigorated, in my opinion. We're constantly told we're well run, but the record of the past 7-8 years suggests otherwise. If you define well run as just being financially stable, maybe. Otherwise, we're not well run. We seem very stagnant and stale, and to be drifting along as a club, sadly. Now, when I sort of first read that thread, and I sort of read everything about what was going on there, I was like, there's some points in there where it was like, oh my god, this tells us what fans have been saying for weeks and months. And speaking to fans outside the stadium before matches, especially the home matches, I get fans telling me left, right and centre, you know, we need a new takeover, we need this, this and this. And, you know, people say to me, are you Wellens in or Wellens out? And even I said on Twitter after Gillingham last night, if you get rid of Wellens, is the problem still there? Is the long-running problem still there? And I get where James is coming from with that thread. It's a very well thought out, balanced, spot-on thread, and I shout him out entirely for that. I think financially, in terms of sustainability and being stable, we're run well. But in terms of having a football identity and a football structure where it's not just appoint a manager, give him a budget, a couple of staff help him, and that's that, I think it's questionable at times. There is decisions that even I call questionable. Deadline day, no Will Grigg, panic buy Rodrigo Vilca, bring in Joe to do after deadline day on a free transfer from the free agency, and that's that. We'll talk more about injuries going into Saturday, but we've got no recognised right back going into Saturday. That's worrying. Are we going to go out on the free agency before Saturday and go get another right back? Or are we going to play Horton at right back? I don't know. But again, what do we do? What do we do? It's just, it's questionable at times at the minute. Even I've got to say it's questionable. I'm not one of those that's going to slag off the board left, right and centre. I'm not going to do that. You know, people can do what they want. That's their opinion. That's the way they express their opinion. Me personally, I say, stable-wise, we're run financially well. But in terms of a football structure, at the moment, it is questionable. And I think the record over the past 7-8 years would say that. So, I mean, and also, you got to admit, under John Ryan, we were never relegated to League Two, or back to League Two, ever. You know, we spent one season in League Two under John Ryan, and that's because we were promoted from the conference. And we got promoted straight back up to League One. In that year. This could be our second relegation to League Two in the space of the 8 years that the current board have been in charge of the club, which is not acceptable in my opinion. And actually worse than that, this will be, what, 6 years since the last League Two relegation. We could be getting relegated to there again. And I think relegation to League Two would probably destroy this club. You know, because the season tickets will get cheaper, the sponsors will get cheaper, the merchandise will get cheaper. And it won't feel like a club again. So relegation to League Two cannot happen. But every week it's looking more and more likely. And this leads me on to the Wellens In, Wellens Out debate. I get what people say. I get that the football's not good enough. I get some of the tactical decisions and the substitute decisions are not good enough at the moment. But is really getting rid of Richie Wellens the biggest problem? Is it the biggest problem here? I don't know. I really don't know. If there was a football structure and we were still under this problem, I'd say getting rid of Wellens would be the solution. If we had a football structure, or if we had some kind of football structure on top of being financially stably run, then I would have said, Richie Wellens, please go. But because there's no football structure, I sort of sit there and I think, is Richie Wellens the biggest problem? In my opinion, no. And this isn't to say the board are bad people. The board are amazing people, really nice guys, you know, great people to talk to. But there's no football structure, and there's things that they do that are holding us back. But on the top of that, there's things that they're doing that are moving us forward. But in what areas, and what's the right area to move us forward? So I think the story of how we're run is a very long, thought-out story. It's not just a simple board out, manager out, enough is enough. It's a longer story than that, and it's a more detailed story than that. You've got to look deeper into it. So, I've said to loads of fans this season, I think this decade there'll be some kind of crossroads for the ownership. I think there'll be some kind of crossroads where someone steps down, or a load of people step down, or something happens drastically and we get taken over or something. Something will happen to the ownership, in my opinion, in this decade, if not the next one, because at some point there's going to be some kind of crossroads where someone in the board or someone somewhere says, wave the white flag, give it to someone else. So I think that something will happen to this club at some point. It's just a case of when, because we can't really put our finger on what year it will happen. So I felt like, for this daily report, I felt like I needed to talk about that. And also I just want to talk more in detail about what Football Whispers put on. So, of course, I'm not going to believe everything that I see. I'm not gullible, not like that. But Football Whispers, and a few people have talked about this on social media as well, Football Whispers have been reporting that in November, Richie Wellens is going to be replaced by the former Huddersfield manager Lee Clark. Now, again, I said in a previous video recently, I don't believe it for 1 second until the club officially announced that Wellens is going and Lee Clark is coming in. I'm not going to believe it. I will not believe it for a single second. However, that doesn't mean I can't not talk about Lee Clark, because he built the foundations for Huddersfield to then go to the Premiership under David Wagner. But he did it with barely a budget, let's be honest. Would I be happy if Lee Clark came in? I really don't know. I honestly, I really don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. There has been whispers of it, but I don't believe those whispers for a single second. But that doesn't mean I can't not talk about them, because, you know, even though I don't believe it until it's made official, you still got to talk about these things. So Lee Clark, in my opinion, would be a gamble to some extent, but also would be a decent appointment if Wellens was to go. But the reason why I don't believe it for a single second is because, one, I want to wait for official confirmation, and two, Wellens is going to be here no matter what happens. If we go down, Wellens will still be here. If we stay up, Wellens will still be here. If we lose all of our players in the summer, Wellens will still be here, because he wants a long-term home and he's going to be here for probably the next few years. So there's no point saying Wellens out, because he ain't going anywhere, in my opinion. You can say Wellens out, that's your opinion. I'm not forcing you to not say your opinion, because if you think Wellens needs to go ahead and say it. My stance on it is, I'm not saying the words Wellens out. There's been games where I've come close to saying it, but I'm not saying it because he's not going anywhere. There's no point. He's not going anywhere. So, like I said, I don't believe the Lee Clark whispers until I actually see it in the flesh. We're getting closer to November, so I'll believe it when I see it. But in my opinion, Wellens isn't going anywhere anyway. Finally then, for this daily report, let's have a look at some injury updates, some actual confirmed information. So, we'll be without both recognised right backs for Saturday's game against Cheltenham, with Carl Noel set to miss the game through suspension, picking up his 5th yellow card against Gillingham, and will now serve a 1-match ban. Charlie Seaman is set to miss 2 to 3 months with a foot injury. Fantastic! Well done, Doncaster Rovers. We've just gone and screwed it up again. Oh boy. What are we going to do? We're going to sign a free agent? We're going to dip into the free agency market again? Probably not. We're going to probably play Horton at right back, but we'll see. So Seaman's still awaiting the full diagnostics of his injury, but Wellens is not hopeful of seeing the versatile fullback available until the new year. ro-shaun Williams will be monitored after being brought off against Gillingham with a hamstring complaint. Although we was ready and changed, but you don't want to make a sub at a corner. He was saying he was fine, but we were seeing him stretching his hamstring. We made the decision for him to come off, but Verdane Oliver is his man, and he's the one that ended up scoring before we could get him off. Joe came on and contributed well to it. And to be fair, Joe Olowu, I did say in my player ratings, I gave him a high 5 because he was moving about and doing something. So, you know, Olowu wouldn't be a bad replacement, especially with Cameron John being out. John Taylor sat out the game after suffering swelling to his ankle on his return to action at the weekend, but Wellens is hopeful he will train as normal on Thursday. Vilka pulled out of the Gillingham game at late notice with illness, meaning Wellens could only name 6 subs. Gardner is back, could be back available in a week after a scan to his foot injury returned positive results. He jarred his foot in training. He felt he couldn't put any more weight on it. In that situation, you need to get it scanned, which we did, and it's come back not bad. So Gardner will probably be back in the squad next week. Taylor's still out. John's still out. Williams could be out. Seaman is out. Noyle is out. Okunabiri's still out. I mean, at this point, you might as well just promote 2 or 3 under-18s to the bench. But this is another thing I've got to talk about, right? Richie Wellens, I love you, mate. You're a decent guy. You're a wonderful guy. And you're a legend of this club. But even you could admit, just bite your tongue, just admit you were wrong, bring Omar Bogle and Ed Williams onto the bench. If he does, after all of that, after all of those injuries, you know, is Vilka going to be back on the bench? I don't know. Taylor won't be back. Seaman's not there. Noyle's not there. Williams might not be there. You're going to have at least 2, maybe even 3 spots open on the bench. In my opinion, bring Bogle and Williams onto the bench. Even if you don't play them, at least put them on the bench to show that you're not completely alienating them. Because at the moment, it feels like Bogle and Williams are training on their own. That's what it feels like, and that's what's being said at the minute. Bogle and Williams doing separate training sessions to the rest of the squad. That's what it feels like at the minute. And in my opinion, you've got to at least put them on the bench just to give fans some kind of optimism ahead of everything. So just please, in my opinion, put Bogle and Williams on the bench. Even if it's just on the bench and you don't play them in the game, just put them on the bench to show that you're willing to at least put them on there when push comes to shove. So, yeah, I'm going to pre-record the preview either today or tomorrow, get it up on Friday, and you'll see my team lineup prediction with all those injuries. So thank you very much, guys, for watching this Daily Report. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And for now, I'm Aaron Chandler from Furrow Football, DRFC, Keelan the Rovers Live, and that, my friends, full-time. Rovers I die. Thank you very much. It's not been a great week, but Saturday comes along, and let's see what we do. Rovers till I die! Rovers till I die!